Hey everyone, this is Sheena, PM representing organizations, and today I'm going to walk you through our new self-service user provisioning feature, as well as the introduction of the user attribute profile and the ability to map incoming attributes from the SAML or OIDC response to an Auth0 user through the enterprise connection. Together, these solve some major pain points for SaaS providers and their enterprise customers. So let's picture yourself as a SaaS provider who's just landed a big enterprise customer. They're eager to connect their IDP and start provisioning users through SCIM, but here's what happens. Your support team has to jump in right away. That means scheduling a call, sharing screens, and manually walking the customer's IT team through every step of the setup. Each customer is a little bit different IDPs, different requirements. Multiply that by dozens or even hundreds of enterprise customers, and your support resources are quickly overwhelmed. While this back and forth is happening, your enterprise customer is stuck waiting. They can't start provisioning users until setup is finished, so onboarding slows down and frustration builds. And because the process is manual, it's fragile. Attribute mapping can get misconfigured, a misstep can mean users aren't provisioned correctly, or worse, accounts don't get deprovisioned, creating compliance risks. In short, setup is slow, costly, and error prone. Both you and your customer feel the pain. Now, let's see how self-service user provisioning changes this dynamic. When an enterprise customer wants provisioning, they still open up a ticket, but instead of waiting for support to handhold the setup, the ticket simply grants them access to a self-service wizard. Behind the scenes, the SaaS provider has already set up a self-service profile in Auth0. This profile is powered by the user attribute profile, and that's the key to making self-service provisioning seamless. The user attribute profile standardizes identity data across different protocols and sources, so the provider only has to define the rules once. It establishes fields like email, username, or external ID centrally, while still allowing strategy-specific overrides to handle edge cases. And because the user attribute profile applies consistently across SCIM, SAML, or OIDC, it ensures mappings are defined no matter which IDP the enterprise customer is using. When the enterprise customer opens a wizard, they're guided by those definitions. They connect their IDP, and everything just works without guesswork or manual support. In just minutes, provisioning is live. Their IT team is in control, employees are onboarded instantly, and your support team hasn't had to touch the setup steps. And if the enterprise customer needs to make changes later, like regenerating a new bearer token, they can request edits directly through the same flow without deep re-engagement from your team. So let's see this in action. Here I have my self-service profile. Everything looks the exact same, but what we've done now is we've introduced the user attribute profile. So if I go to edit it, I can see that it's already set up for me. But the cool thing is that if we go to create a new one, we can see that we already have a template that defaults in. This is the same template that's used for SCIM, and that's just been expanded to be able to support SAML as well as OIDC. And then we can see too that we have strategy overrides for the different strategies. At any time, they can go in and they can modify any of these fields. If you have a user attribute profile associated with a self-service profile, we're still going to see user profile for now, and there will be a warning at the top just saying that if it's configured with a profile, that's what's going to be used. And then in time, we're going to remove this as we want everyone to migrate over to the user attribute profile. This is an EA release, by the way. Now, I want to get my customer up and running, so I'm going to create a ticket. Again, this could be done through an API, but for demo purposes, we'll go through the UI here. Everything remains the same, except we've now added in provisioning. So the token expiration defaults to no expiration date, and then all scopes are on, but these can be modified easily by just clicking through the buttons here. So let's create our ticket, and then we send it over to our customer. So now they're in the wizard, and one thing that we might notice from previous demos is that we've updated the UI here. So now we have steps. The first step is to create your connection. The second step is to do your provisioning. And then the third step, if it was part of the ticket, would be to do domain verification if it was required. We obviously can't click on provisioning until we actually have a connection set up. So one of the reasons why I'm going to show the connection is because when using the user attribute profile with a self-service profile, the mappings are now used to populate the enterprise connection mapping object within Auth0 whenever a connection is created. And this was a frequently requested feature for self-service SSO, so it made perfect sense to introduce it with the release of user attribute profile. I will, however, try to go through this relatively quickly so that we don't spend too much time on it. And here I'm just going to allow access for everything and then just continue skipping through this. All right, so there's our connection. I'm going to skip through the mapping, skip through the access because that's already been set up. I'm going to do a quick test. And then we can see the results of my test here, and then I will enable the connection. So now I have a little green icon, and then provisioning is now accessible, so I'm going to click it. And one of the interesting things with Okta is that their SCIM is actually done through a separate app. So we're just going to follow along here and create the second app. So we'll make it a SCIM application. All right. So here we find the endpoint URL and then the unique identifier. We'll mark this as HTTP, and then we will generate our token. Now, just like within the managed dashboard, the token can only be accessed when it's first created. If you don't copy and close it, then you'd have to delete it and create a new one. And then also, just like the dashboard, if I create a secondary one, I have two and I can't create any more after that, so I would have to delete one of them. And then my last thing is to push new users and profiles. And then we can do a quick test. Everything looks good, and we'll save this. And then we're going to enable creating users, updating, and also deactivating, and hit save. All right. So the very next step is to go through the SCIM mapping. Now, I already have my attribute mappings already set up, so we can quickly skip through this. However, if we did have to add in any new ones, there are instructions on how to do this, and those are different for Okta, Enter ID, and then we also support generic SAML and generic OIDC. So we'll hit done, and now we're all good. So my last step is to enable the connection, and then I'm going to proceed, and then I have my notification here too. Now, if we want to quickly just see if this actually worked, then let's go and find me here, and then we will assign. And there I am, Sheena Okta demo. Now again, if I wanted to remove myself, we don't actually delete, so just like the existing SCIM setup that we already have in the system, but what we do is we block it, so we can see it's blocked. Now, if I jump over to the enterprise connection that we just created, we can see that the user template, our user mapping template, has been populated, and this all came from the user attribute profile. And then if we pop over to our logs, we can see that we have created a ticket, we created a connection, provisioning started, we got the tokens, and then we can go through all the different logs for the whole flow. So that's everything. Thank you very much for taking the time to explore these exciting updates to our self-service offering. As always, we're going to continue to monitor feedback and adoption rates to ensure that these features deliver the value that our customers expect. And please reach out if you have any questions or need any further details. Thank you.